My name is Marissa, 21 years old. For 3 years, my life had been on repeat. Long shifts at the super warehouse, aching muscles, and paychecks that disappeared almost as soon as they landed in my account. Every month there was another bill, another urgent request from my parents. At first I believed them when they said it was temporary, that if I just helped with the electric bill here, the grocery money there, it would all even out. But temporary stretched into years. College had been my dream. When I graduated high school, I wanted nothing more than to study literature and maybe even become a teacher. I had stayed up late researching programs, sketching little plans in notebooks, but when I'd brought it up, my parents' answer was final. We can't afford it. They promised if I worked a while and saved, I'd get there eventually, except the savings never happened. Every time I set a little aside, something came up. Mom needed help with groceries, Dad said the internet bill couldn't wait, or my younger sister Helen needed clothes for school. Helen, 4 years younger than me, was always the center of the family's attention. She had never worked a single day in her life, but she got everything she wanted: new phone, new shoes, private tutoring, pocket money for outings with her friends. She's still in school, Dad would say whenever I brought it up. You're older, Marissa. You can manage on your own. So I managed. I managed while my car rattled and broke down again and again. Transmission, alternator, brakes. It felt like every paycheck went either under our family's roof or under the hood of that miserable car. I managed, while Helen flaunted shiny things she hadn't earned, while my parents praised her for her potential. And all the while, my own dreams were pushed further into the shadows. That Christmas Eve, I came home after a 12-hour shift. The air outside bit into my skin, but my whole body was already throbbing from lifting boxes and running carts all day. All I wanted was a warm dinner and maybe a quiet laugh with my family. As I turned into our street, something caught my eye and jolted me awake. A brand new red sedan parked in our driveway, gleaming under the streetlight, with a huge bow tied across the hood. I froze in my seat. For one fragile moment, my chest filled with something like hope. Could it be for me? My parents knew how much I'd struggled with my old car. They'd seen me stranded on the side of the road more times than I could count. They'd watched me cry when a mechanic quoted repairs I couldn't afford. Maybe, just maybe, they had noticed. Maybe this was their way of saying, "We see you. We're grateful." I stayed in my car a few seconds longer, letting myself dream, imagining sliding into that spotless interior, turning the key without praying it would start, imagining freedom, relief. But dreams end quickly. When I opened the front door, the truth hit harder than the winter wind. The house was alive with laughter, music, and chatter. Relatives filled the living room, plates stacked with food, glasses clinking in celebration. And above all that noise, Helen's shrill voice carried from the couch. "Oh my God, you guys, can you believe it? My parents just gave me a brand new car for Christmas," she squealed into her phone. She waved her free hand as if she were already driving it, her bracelets clinking. "It's so shiny and perfect. Everyone at school is going to freak out when they see me in it." My heart sank straight into the floor. The car wasn't for me. It had never even been a question in their minds. It was for Helen. Helen, who hadn't lifted a finger for this family. Helen, who had mocked me for working like an old woman instead of having fun. Helen, who now had the one thing I needed most. I stood frozen in the doorway, watching my parents beam as they listened to Helen's excitement. My aunts and uncles raised their glasses toward her, congratulating her as though she had earned it. Nobody looked at me, the daughter who had kept the lights on for 3 years. Finally, Dad noticed me and strode over, clapping me on the shoulder. His hand was heavy, his smile wide. "Marissa, there you are. Isn't this amazing? Did you see the gift we got for Helen?" I couldn't even find words, my throat was tight. Mom appeared beside him, her eyes shining with pride. "Don't worry, sweetheart. We didn't forget about you." She reached into a crinkled grocery bag and pulled out a small ceramic piggy bank. A clearance sticker clung to its side, 3 markdowns layered on top of each other. She placed it in my hands like it was some sacred heirloom. "There's already $10 in it," she said with solemn warmth. "That's our contribution to your future home. You've always dreamed of having your own place, haven't you?" For a moment, I actually thought she was joking. I looked from her face to Dad's, waiting for the laugh, the gotcha, but they just nodded seriously. From the couch, Helen snorted with laughter. "Oh my God, a piggy bank? That's priceless. Careful not to break it, sis. It might be worth $5. The room chuckled along with her. My cheeks burned, though the rest of me felt cold, like I was vanishing right there among them. Dad wagged a finger at me. Now don't make that face. You should be grateful, Marissa. Any gift from your parents is valuable. You're already an adult. You've got a job. You can take care of yourself. Helen's younger. She needs more support. Mom patted my arm, voice soft but firm. You'll understand one day. Parents always know what's best for their children. Be frugal, save wisely. That piggy bank will remind you. I stared down at the ceramic figure in my hands, still plastered with price tags. My vision blurred. Around me, the party roared on. Helen snapping selfies with relatives, aunts gossiping, uncles laughing too loud. Nobody noticed me standing there with my clearance bin gift, my heart breaking in silence. Inside my chest, something snapped. A realization sharp as glass. I would never matter here, not the way Helen did. My sacrifices weren't invisible. They were simply taken for granted. Helen's voice rang out again as she bounced toward the door. Come on, guys, let's go check out my new car. She grabbed a couple of cousins by the arms and dragged them outside. Through the window, I saw her posing, tossing her hair, puckering lips into kissy faces against the shiny hood. The laughter from the yard mixed with the hum of the party, but I couldn't hear it anymore. I could only hear the pounding of my own pulse. I walked upstairs slowly, holding the piggy bank like it might explode. In my room, I set it on the dresser, where the fluorescent clearance stickers mocked me. I opened my drawer, pulled out a duffel bag, and began packing. Every sweater folded was another reminder. Every book tucked away was another year lost. My hands shook, but there was a calm underneath it, a decision forming like stone. From downstairs, Dad's booming laugh rose above the music. We raised them right, didn't we? Mom's reply was muffled, but I heard one word clearly: grateful. I zipped the duffel. My gaze lingered on the piggy bank one last time. It would stay here, exactly where they left it, a symbol of what I meant to them. I took a deep breath, grabbed my bag, and opened the door to the hallway. I wasn't coming back. The noise from downstairs grew louder as I crept down the hallway with my duffel bag. Laughter, music, the scrape of silverware against plates. It all felt miles away, though I was only steps above them. I tightened my grip on the strap, heart pounding, and forced myself to breathe quietly. Nobody looked up when I slipped past the living room. The relatives were too busy cheering for Helen, who had returned inside, cheeks flushed and eyes sparkling as she told everyone about how her friends would die of jealousy. My parents hovered around her like proud statues, basking in reflected glory. I walked straight through the chaos, out the front door, and into the biting cold. Not one person called after me, not even my mother. The icy air hit my lungs as I slid behind the wheel of my dying car. It groaned when I turned the key, shuddering like it might collapse on itself. For a second, I thought it wouldn't start, and that maybe fate itself was trapping me here. But with one last rattling cough, the engine came alive. The headlights cut across the driveway, illuminating the red sedan once more. Helen's laughter rang through the window as she showed it off. She didn't see me leave. Nobody did. I drove. The roads blurred past me in streaks of frost and streetlights. My hands were stiff against the steering wheel, and my chest hurt like something heavy was pressing down from the inside. A dozen thoughts tangled in my head: guilt, fury, grief, but one cut through the noise. I can't stay there anymore. Jessica's apartment was 20 minutes away. I called her while parked at a red light, trying to keep my voice steady. Hey, Merry Christmas, she answered cheerfully. Jess, my voice cracked. Can I come over? I can't be at home tonight. Silence for a beat, then her tone softened. Of course. What happened? I'll explain when I get there. You don't even need to ask, Marissa. You're always welcome. Her words struck something inside me. Always welcome. 2 words I hadn't felt from my own family in years. When I arrived, Jessica was waiting at the door in a fuzzy sweater, her little apartment glowing with warm light. The smell of cinnamon drifted from the kitchen, where a modest table held 2 mismatched plates and a small roast chicken. She had decorated with paper snowflakes taped to the windows and a tiny artificial tree strung with colorful lights. It wasn't grand, but it was warm, real. Come in, she said, pulling me into a hug before I could speak. God, you're freezing. I didn't even realize I was crying until she pulled back and brushed tears from my cheek. Over steaming mugs of cocoa, I told her everything. The years of paying bills, the dreams pushed aside, the red car in the driveway, the piggy bank with clearance stickers. When I said it out loud, it sounded even more ridiculous, more humiliating. Jessica slammed her hand on the table. A piggy bank? After everything you've done for them? With $10 inside, I muttered. She shook her head. That's not a gift, Marissa. That's an insult. I know, I whispered. And still, part of me thought, maybe they'd finally notice me this year. Her eyes softened. They don't deserve you. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt the knot in my chest loosen just a little. We spent the evening on her couch, watching cheesy holiday movies, laughing at bad acting. The world outside was still cruel, but here, in Jessica's tiny apartment, I could breathe. The next day was quiet. Jessica and I shared leftovers, lounged in pajamas, and talked about nothing important. My phone sat silent on the counter. A part of me almost hoped my parents would call, would at least notice I was gone. But the hours passed, and nothing came. Not until the following evening did the buzzing start. First a call from Mom, then Dad, then Helen, then again, over and over until my phone lit up like a siren. The voicemails were filled with sharp words. Marissa, where are you? Stop being dramatic. You're embarrassing us. Come home now. Honestly, you're acting like a child. You should be grateful for everything we've done for you. I stared at the screen, heat prickling behind my eyes. It had taken them over 24 hours to even realize I wasn't there. That told me everything I needed to know. For 3 more days, the calls didn't stop. Morning, noon, midnight. My phone never rested. Jessica suggested blocking their numbers, but I wasn't ready yet. Some small, wounded part of me wanted to hear their voices, even if they were only calling to scold me. On the 4th day, I thought I'd found peace again. Work was busy, carts of inventory rolling endlessly through the warehouse. I lost myself in the rhythm. Lift, stack, repeat, letting the noise drown out the buzzing in my pocket. Until my manager approached, looking uncomfortable. Marissa, he said, scratching his neck. Your parents are here. They're waiting up front at customer service. My stomach dropped so fast I almost staggered. They had come here, to my job. The boxes blurred in my vision. My pulse hammered in my ears. Part of me wanted to run, to slip out the back and never face them again, but I knew that wasn't an option anymore. I wiped my hands on my apron, steadied my breath, and forced my feet toward the front of the store. Mom and Dad stood near the service desk, out of place among the bustle of shoppers and fluorescent lights. Mom wrung her hands, Dad's jaw set tight. Their eyes snapped to me the moment I appeared. There you are, Mom said quickly, her voice sharp with relief and accusation all at once. We've been calling nonstop. Why haven't you answered? We need to talk, Dad added, his tone like an order. The noise of the store faded around me. It was just their faces, their voices, and the storm that had been building for years finally breaking through the walls of this ordinary supermarket. I squared my shoulders. Then let's talk. Mom's voice was already trembling with urgency as she stepped closer. Marissa, you shouldn't have reacted like this, leaving home without a word. Do you know how worried we were? I bit down hard on my tongue. It had taken them more than a day to even notice I was gone. But now, standing in the middle of a supermarket, they wanted to act like frantic parents. Dad added quickly, we didn't want to hurt you, sweetheart. We'll give you a very nice gift someday, too. You just need to be patient. I almost laughed, though the sound stuck in my throat. Someday. I pictured another clearance item, another afterthought tossed into a grocery bag. Instead, I asked, do you even realize how much I've done for you? My voice wavered, but not from weakness, because it had been bottled up too long. Shoppers pushed carts around us, glancing sideways at the scene. The fluorescent lights hummed above. I could feel my coworkers peeking from behind shelves, pretending to stock items while they strained to listen. Dad frowned. We appreciate you. Of course we do. But you're independent. You can handle things. Helen needs us more, Mom finished, nodding. She's younger. She has to fit in at school. Her reputation matters. That was it. Something inside me snapped. Her reputation? My voice rose, sharp enough to make the cashier at the service desk freeze. Do you know what my reputation is? The tired girl who works overtime every week, who drives a car that barely runs, who pays for your cable, your groceries, your electric bill, Helen's clothes, Helen's trips. My voice cracked as I listed it out. I've kept this family afloat for 3 years while she hasn't worked a single day. Dad's face hardened, his eyes flicking nervously at the growing audience. Lower your voice. No! My chest was heaving. I won't lower my voice anymore. Do you think I haven't noticed how little you value me? You gave her a car worth thousands of dollars. And me? You gave me a piggy bank with clearance stickers still stuck on it. A murmur rippled through the bystanders. Someone whispered, Did she say a piggy bank? Mom reached out to grab my arm, her nails digging lightly into my sleeve. Marissa, please, don't exaggerate. That piggy bank was thoughtful. It meant nothing, I cut her off, pulling away. It was insulting. A reminder that no matter how hard I work, no matter what I sacrifice, I will never matter as much as Helen to you. Her eyes filled with tears, but there was something theatrical in the way she dabbed at them. She knew we had an audience now. Dad tried to take control, his voice booming. Marissa, enough. You're making a scene. Come home and we'll talk privately. I laughed bitterly, the sound surprising even me. Privately? You'd just gaslight me again. Pretend I'm overreacting. Tell me I should be grateful. Well, not anymore. I'm done paying your bills. I'm done being your ATM. If Helen wants nice things, she can get a job. The words hung heavy in the air. Mom's tears stopped instantly, replaced by a cold glare. That's cruel, Marissa. We raised you better than this. You can't just abandon your family. I shook my head. Abandon? You abandoned me years ago, when you chose Helen's wants over my future, when you let me work myself to exhaustion while you lied to relatives about how I chose not to go to college. Dad's jaw tightened. He hadn't expected me to know that. His silence was all the confirmation I needed. A woman in line nearby muttered, "Good for her," under her breath. My parents heard it too, their faces reddening. I took a shaky step back, my whole body trembling. You need to leave. I have to get back to work. Mom's voice cracked, her mask slipping. Marissa, please. Leave, I repeated firmly. For a moment, none of us moved. Then Dad grabbed Mom's elbow, muttering something under his breath. They turned and walked quickly out of the store, heads low as whispers followed them. The second they were gone, my knees almost gave out. My coworker Jessica appeared at my side, steadying me. You okay? No, I whispered, tears blurring my vision. But I finally said it. That night, back at Jessica's apartment, I sat with my phone in hand, staring at the screen lighting up again and again. Calls, messages, voicemails. Marissa, stop acting like a child. We were counting on you. You're being selfish and ungrateful. We can't do this without you. Come home. I deleted everyone. Then I opened my banking app. Our joint account glared at me, my money tangled with theirs, drained every month for bills I hadn't even agreed to. My hands shook as I removed their access. One authorization after another, canceling the automatic payments. Electricity, internet, cable, water. Are you sure? The app asked with each confirmation. Yes, I whispered each time. Jessica watched from the couch, her voice soft but firm. You're taking back control. I nodded, though my stomach twisted with guilt. They'll call me cruel. They already do, she reminded me gently. But you're not. You're finally putting yourself first. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is your mother. Your father can't live without cable TV, and Helen needs internet for her school projects. Fix this immediately. I stared at the words until they blurred, then deleted the message without responding. The next day, another unknown number rang. Against my better judgment, I answered, thinking it might be work. Marissa, it's Aunt Linda? I froze. Aunt Linda, my father's sister, whom I hadn't spoken to in months. Hi, Aunt Linda, I said cautiously. Honey, what's going on? Your mother called me in tears, saying you had some kind of breakdown and abandoned the family. She said you need help. I closed my eyes, anger flaring. That's not what happened at all. Then tell me, she urged gently. And so I did. I told her about the years of paying bills, the Christmas humiliation, the clearance piggy bank, and the car in the driveway that wasn't mine. I told her everything. When I finished, there was silence. Then her voice came back, tight with fury. Marissa, I had no idea. Your parents told everyone you refused college because you wanted to work. They lied to us. Tears slid down my cheeks, but for once they weren't just from pain. I wanted to go. They just wouldn't let me. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered. We need to talk more. Why don't you come visit me and Uncle Mark this weekend? I hesitated, wiping my eyes. You? You really want me to? Of course we do. Come. We'll make dinner. We'll listen. For the first time in years, I felt the faint spark of something I thought I'd lost completely. Hope. That Saturday, I drove across town with a nervous knot in my stomach. My car rattled like an old man coughing, the engine protesting every mile. Part of me feared it wouldn't make it, that I'd end up stranded on the side of the highway, humiliated all over again. But somehow, just as the gas needle dipped dangerously close to empty, I pulled into Aunt Linda and Uncle Mark's driveway. Their home was modest but warm, a single-story house with flower beds that even winter couldn't strip of life. A porch light glowed gently, welcoming me like an open hand. My chest tightened at the thought. When was the last time I'd felt truly welcomed anywhere? The door opened before I even knocked. Aunt Linda enveloped me in a hug so firm I nearly dropped my duffel bag. There you are, sweetheart. Come in, come in. It's freezing out here. Inside, the smell of roasted chicken and baked bread wrapped around me. A fire crackled in the living room, filling the space with golden warmth. Uncle Mark appeared, smiling, his glasses sliding down his nose. We're glad you came, Marissa. Sit, sit. I settled onto the couch, my fingers twisted tight in my lap. My heart was still racing from the drive, but also from something deeper, fear of what I might hear. Fear that they might, like my parents, tell me I was wrong. But Aunt Linda's eyes were steady, her voice gentle. Tell us everything. Not your mother's version, yours. And so I did. I told them about the night of the car, the piggy bank with clearance tags, the way my parents had minimized everything. I told them about the bills, the years of my life drained into keeping the house running, while Helen never lifted a finger. Uncle Mark leaned forward, listening intently. Aunt Linda's expression grew darker with every word. When I finally stopped, my throat raw, there was silence for a moment. Then Aunt Linda shook her head sharply. Your parents told the entire family you refused to go to college, that you said you'd rather work than study. They painted you as irresponsible. My chest hollowed out. That's not true. I begged them to let me apply. They told me there wasn't money. Uncle Mark exchanged a glance with Aunt Linda, something quiet but meaningful passing between them. Then he leaned back, exhaling slowly. You know, Marissa, our son, Jake, decided not to go to college. He enlisted in the army instead. We had money saved for his education. Money we don't need now. I blinked. The words took a moment to register. What are you saying? Aunt Linda leaned closer, her hand covering mine. We're saying we could help you with school, with tuition. Not as charity, but as an investment in your future. You can pay us back later if you want, but right now you need a chance. For a heartbeat, I couldn't breathe. My throat tightened, my eyes stung. Are you serious? Completely, Uncle Mark said. His smile was small, but steady. You deserve a future, Marissa. You've already proven you're responsible. We trust you. Tears broke free before I could stop them. I covered my face, my whole body shaking. I had spent so long being told no, so long carrying everyone else's weight, that the word yes felt unreal. Aunt Linda squeezed my hand. We should have asked questions sooner. I regret believing your parents' lies, but now we know the truth, and we won't stand by while you sacrifice yourself any longer. I wiped my face, half laughing through the tears. I'll pay back every penny, I promise. We know, Uncle Mark said simply. Dinner that night was filled with conversations I hadn't realized I was starving for. They asked what I wanted to study, what kind of career I envisioned. Nobody had asked me that in years. Nobody had cared. I spoke hesitantly at first, then with more excitement, describing my love for literature, my dream of becoming a teacher, maybe even writing someday. You'd be wonderful, Aunt Linda said warmly. You've always been thoughtful, always had a way with words. The firelight flickered across her face, and for once I didn't feel invisible. But even as hope bloomed, shadows lingered. My phone buzzed constantly on the coffee table. Unknown numbers, desperate messages. One voicemail from Helen's school email made me laugh bitterly when I played it for Aunt Linda. Marissa, you have to help me. The bank is threatening to take my car. Mom and Dad can't pay the loan. You wouldn't really let me lose it, would you? Please. I deleted it mid-message. Good for you, Aunt Linda said firmly. That car was never your responsibility. None of this ever should have been. But guilt gnawed at me later, lying in their guest room. It wasn't just my parents' manipulation. It was the habit of putting them first, drilled into me for years. Even as I imagined a future of classrooms and books, my mind whispered doubts. What if they're right? What if I am cruel? The next morning, over coffee, Uncle Mark must have seen the hesitation in my eyes. You're thinking about them again. I nodded. I don't know how to stop. You don't stop, he said. You learn to live with the ache, but you also learn that setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's survival. Those words sank deep. That week, I started researching programs, filling out applications, scribbling lists of deadlines in a notebook I hadn't touched since high school. Every step felt surreal. Every click of the keyboard was a rebellion against years of being silenced. Still, the harassment didn't stop. Texts came from numbers I didn't recognize. Marissa, this is your father. We raised you. We sacrificed for you. How could you turn your back on us? You're brainwashed. Whoever is telling you this is poisoning you against your family. Come home now. Stop acting crazy. Each message was like a ghost tugging at my ankles, trying to pull me back into the grave I'd just crawled out of. One evening, Jessica found me on her couch with my phone buzzing nonstop, my face pale. "You don't owe them an answer," she said firmly, plucking the phone from my hands and setting it face down. "They had 3 years to appreciate you. They didn't. Now it's your turn." I wanted to believe her, and yet, when the buzzing stopped, silence filled the room like a dare. A silence heavy with the certainty that my family wasn't finished, that the real storm hadn't even started yet. But this time, for once, I had something I'd never had before. Allies. Summer slipped past in a blur of applications, placement tests, and hushed phone calls with Aunt Linda. For the first time since high school, I was planning a future that belonged to me. Each acceptance letter, each brochure that arrived in the mail, felt like oxygen filling my lungs. I had chosen a program not too far away, 3 hours drive, a small campus with a strong literature department. But as my move-in date drew closer, I knew I couldn't avoid it any longer. I had to go back to my parents' house, collect the rest of my belongings, and face whatever storm was waiting. The driveway was bare when I pulled in. Helen's shiny red sedan was gone, the space empty like a missing tooth. My stomach twisted with both satisfaction and unease. I didn't need to ask what had happened. The bank must have taken it. Before I could even knock, the door swung open. Mom was there, her face lighting up as if the past months had never happened. "Marissa, oh honey, you're home." She wrapped me in a hug that smelled faintly of perfume and desperation. "I knew you'd come back." Behind her, Dad appeared, smiling too broadly. "We said she'd come to her senses. Welcome home, sweetheart." I stepped back, my duffel strap firm in my hand. "I'm not here to stay. I'm here to pack the rest of my things." Their smiles faltered. Mom forced a laugh, her voice wobbling. "Oh, you don't mean that. You've always been dramatic. Come inside, we'll talk. We can be close again like a family." I brushed past them into the house. The air smelled the same, stale with last night's cooking and too many unspoken words. My old room hadn't changed. The walls still held faded posters, the dresser still cluttered with old trinkets, and on top of it, exactly where I had left it on Christmas Eve, sat the piggy bank with its clearance stickers peeling. The sight of it hit me harder than I expected. That little object, ridiculous and insulting, had somehow become a monument to everything I'd endured. I picked it up, turned it over in my hands. The cheap ceramic was cool against my palms. I set it back down, deliberately, leaving it behind again. It didn't belong with me. Down the hall, I heard my parents whispering frantically, their voices carried through the thin walls. "How are we going to pay the bills?" Dad hissed. "She has to help us," Mom replied, urgent. "And Helen's college fund." I closed my eyes, gripping the box I had just packed. The same words, the same endless cycle. When I walked back into the living room, they both turned to me, desperation thinly veiled under forced smiles. "You know Helen is really upset about losing her car," Mom said softly, wringing her hands. "She feels humiliated. We'll need to figure out how to get her another one." Dad nodded quickly. "And once you're settled, maybe you can start saving for a car for yourself too. That way everyone's happy." I set the box down on the floor with a dull thud. "You're not listening. I'm leaving for college next week. I won't be paying your bills anymore. I won't be buying Helen cars." Their faces shifted instantly, from pleading to outrage. "College?" Dad demanded, his voice sharp. "Where did you get money for college?" "There are people who believe in me," I said evenly. "People who helped." Mom's eyes brimmed with tears, her hands clutching at her chest. "You can't leave us, Marissa. We need you here. Without you, we'll lose the house. You can't abandon your family like this." I stared at her, the tears on her cheeks too familiar, too rehearsed. "You abandoned me long before I left. You abandoned me when you chose Helen's wants over my future, when you gave her a car and gave me a piggy bank." Dad's face darkened. "We said we'd get you something nice eventually." "When?" My voice rose, cracking with years of swallowed anger. "After I paid for Helen's college? After I bought her another car? After I spent my whole life working for everyone else's dreams but mine?" The room fell silent, thick with the weight of truth. Mom's tears slowed. Dad had no answer. Helen slunk in from the hallway then, her arms folded, eyes red from crying. "You're so selfish, Marissa. All you think about is yourself." I turned to her, exhaustion heavy in my bones. "All I've ever done is think about you. Every bill, every new outfit, every time you wanted something and Mom and Dad couldn't or wouldn't pay for it, Who do you think covered it? Me. And what did I get in return? A piggy bank. Her lips trembled, but she didn't speak. I picked up the box again, heading for the door. My parents followed, their voices overlapping, a desperate chorus. Please, Marissa, we can work this out. You're being unreasonable. We're your family, you can't just walk away. I turned on the porch, the cool air sharp in my lungs. You had 3 years to appreciate me. 3 years to treat me like a daughter instead of a paycheck. And you didn't. Now I'm finally choosing myself. Their faces blurred in my vision, but I didn't let myself cry. Not this time. I loaded the last box into my trunk and closed it firmly. Mom's voice broke behind me, a whisper carried by the wind. We can't survive without you. I didn't turn back. Then you should learn how. I got into my car, the engine groaning as it came alive. As I pulled away from the house, I didn't look at the windows or the porch. I didn't look at the piggy bank left behind in my old room. I drove until the house was nothing more than a shadow in my rearview mirror. For the first time, the road ahead belonged to me. My new apartment was small, just a studio tucked above a cafe, with creaky floorboards and windows that let in the hum of the street below. The kitchen was barely wide enough to turn around in. The closet could hardly fit more than a few boxes, and the bathroom light flickered when I turned it on. But it was mine. I sat cross-legged on the floor my first night, surrounded by unpacked boxes, a takeout container balanced on my knees. The walls were bare, the air smelled faintly of paint and dust, but I couldn't stop smiling. No one was demanding I hand over my paycheck. No one was waiting to tell me my dreams were nonsense. For the first time in my life, the silence belonged to me. Classes started that Monday. I walked across the leafy campus with a notebook clutched tight, my stomach twisting in both nerves and excitement. Students bustled around me, some laughing with friends, some hurrying with coffee in hand. They all looked so sure of themselves. I felt like an imposter, like someone would tap my shoulder and tell me I didn't belong. But when my literature professor launched into a lecture about storytelling as survival, my heart ached in recognition. Every word felt like it was meant for me. My pen flew across the page, scribbling notes, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. After class, a girl in my row smiled at me. You look like you're writing a novel, she teased. I laughed nervously. Just notes. But her kindness lingered. Bit by bit, I started to believe maybe I did belong here. At night, I worked shifts in the cafe downstairs. The manager, a kind woman with tired eyes, adjusted schedules around my classes. My co-workers were other students, juggling homework and rent just like me. We swapped stories over steaming milk and the hiss of espresso machines, laughing at bad tips and cheering for each other's small victories. The pay wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to keep a roof over my head, enough to buy groceries and secondhand textbooks. For the first time, my money stayed in my account. Watching it accumulate, even slowly, was intoxicating. But even in this new life, ghosts followed me. My phone still buzzed with calls from unknown numbers. The first few times I answered, only to hear my mother's voice. Marissa, please, the mortgage is due. We'll lose the house without you. Or my father's sharp tone, be reasonable. We raised you. You owe us. Or Helen's thin, desperate voice, you don't understand. I'm miserable without my car. Everyone at school laughs at me now. Each time I hung up before they could finish. Eventually, I learned to stop answering at all, but their voices lingered in my head long after the calls ended. One night, after a late shift at the cafe, I sat on my bed staring at the ceiling. The guilt was still there, pressing against my ribs. Was I heartless to leave them behind? Was I truly abandoning them? Jessica called then, as if she had read my mind. Hey, how's campus life? She asked. I hesitated, then admitted, sometimes I feel cruel, like I'm betraying them. Her sigh crackled through the speaker. Marissa, you didn't betray them. They betrayed you. They used you until there was nothing left to take. Choosing yourself isn't cruelty, it's survival. Her words echoed what Uncle Mark had told me, and slowly, piece by piece, I started to believe it. By the second month, the routines of my new life felt natural. I spent mornings in lectures, afternoons studying in the library with sunlight streaming through tall windows, evenings making lattes and wiping tables. Some nights, I walked home with tired feet, but a lighter heart than I'd ever known. One crisp evening, I unlocked my door, dropped my bag, and noticed the silence. No buzzing phone, no frantic messages, just peace. I sat at my desk, opened a blank notebook, and began writing. Not homework, Not notes, but my own story. I wrote about the girl who worked until her bones ached, who gave until she was empty, who was rewarded with a piggy bank. I wrote about the night she walked away, the fear and the freedom tangled together. I wrote until my hand cramped, until tears blurred the ink. When I stopped, I realized I was smiling. But peace didn't mean the war was over. One Sunday, an unfamiliar number flashed on my screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Marissa, Mom's voice trembled. Honey, please come home. We can't pay the mortgage. We'll lose the house. Don't do this to us. A long silence stretched. For once, I didn't rush to fill it. Finally, I said, calm but cold. You should have thought of that before deciding I wasn't worth more than a $5 piggy bank. Her gasp crackled through the line. We're sorry about the gift, okay? We'll make it up to you. This isn't about the gift, I said firmly. This is about 3 years of treating me like an ATM instead of a daughter. It's about lying to everyone, saying I refuse college when you refused me. It's about valuing Helen's comfort over my future. We love you, she whispered desperately. No, I corrected. You love my paycheck. Then I hung up and blocked the number. The next morning, I walked to class under a pale blue sky. The autumn leaves crunched beneath my shoes, and for the first time in years, I felt weightless. In the classroom, my professor asked us to write an essay about resilience. As pen scratched against paper, I sat there with tears stinging my eyes. I knew exactly what resilience looked like, because I was living it. That night, back in my little apartment, I lit a cheap candle and spread my books across the floor. My life was small, messy, still uncertain, but it was mine. And as I whispered to myself before falling asleep, the words felt truer than anything I had ever said. This time I'm living for me. By the time winter settled over campus, I had fallen into a rhythm that felt almost like joy. Mornings in lecture halls, afternoons scribbling in the library, evenings steaming milk and stacking cups in the cafe. My body ached most nights, but it was the kind of ache that came from building something, not from being drained. Sometimes I caught myself humming while I cleaned tables, something I hadn't done in years. Even the smallest things. A paycheck with my name alone, a professor complimenting my essay, a quiet Sunday morning spent reading in bed, felt extraordinary. But ghosts don't die so easily. It started with an email from Helen. Subject: You don't understand. Marissa, Mom and Dad can't cover the mortgage. The bank is threatening foreclosure. If you don't help, we'll lose the house. Please, I know you're angry, but don't let us end up on the street. You're supposed to care about family. I read it 3 times, then closed my laptop without replying. My heart twisted, but my hands didn't move to type. A week later, the phone calls returned, this time from numbers with out-of-state area codes. They thought they could trick me. For a while, I ignored them, until one Sunday evening, exhaustion weakened me, and I picked up. Marissa? My father's voice was sharp, commanding. Enough games. You need to come home. Do you know what's happening? The bank is threatening repossession. We'll be ruined. Something inside me shifted. His words, meant to frighten, no longer pierced me the way they once did. I sat on the edge of my bed, calm. That's not my problem anymore, I said. He sputtered. Not your problem. We're your family. I closed my eyes, steady. You had 3 years to treat me like family. You didn't. Now you're just people who used me. Before he could reply, I ended the call. The silence afterward was deafening, but it didn't crush me. It set me free. Still, their desperation grew. Aunt Linda called one evening, her voice worried. Marissa, your parents reached out again. They said you've abandoned them, that they might lose everything. I told them the truth, but they're spiraling. Are you sure you won't speak to them? My throat tightened. I can't, Aunt Linda. If I go back, nothing changes. I'll be right where I was before. She was quiet for a moment, then sighed. I understand. Just remember, you're not alone anymore. You have us. Her reassurance was like a hand on my shoulder. The last test came just before Christmas, exactly 1 year since the night of the car. Snow dusted the streets. The cafe was busy with shoppers clutching lattes, and I was wiping down a counter when my phone buzzed. Another unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Marissa? My mother's voice trembled. It's Christmas Eve. Please, come home. We made a mistake last year. The piggy bank was thoughtless. We see that now. Just come back. We need you. For a moment, time froze. I pictured the house, the decorations, the food, Helen's laughter filling the room, the place I had once called home. A part of me, deep and aching, wanted to believe her. But I remembered too much. the clearance stickers, the years of exhaustion, the way it had taken them days to even notice I was gone. "No," I said softly. "I'm not coming home." Her breath hitched. "Don't say that. We'll lose everything without you." "You already lost me," I replied. A long silence. Then, her voice breaking, "We love you." The words should have warmed me. Instead, they rang hollow, like an echo in an empty room. "You love what I did for you," I said, "but you never loved me enough to see who I was, or what I needed. You loved my paycheck, not my dreams, not my heart, just what I could give." Her sobbing filled the line. I let it wash over me, steady as stone. Then I whispered, "Goodbye," and ended the call. This time I blocked the number before the guilt could creep back in. That night, I lit a small candle on my desk. Outside, the snow fell thick and quiet, blanketing the world in white. I sat in the glow and opened my notebook. My pen moved across the page, steady, certain. I wrote about the girl who was handed a piggy bank when she deserved a future, about the night she walked away and the battles she fought to claim herself back, about the final call, when she realized love without respect isn't love at all. I didn't cry as I wrote. Instead, I smiled through the sting in my chest, because this wasn't a tragedy anymore. It was the beginning of something new. The next morning, I walked across campus with frost crunching under my shoes. The bell tower chimed, students hurried past with scarves pulled tight, and I felt alive. My life was still small, my apartment still drafty, my future still uncertain, but for the first time, it belonged to me. Maybe, years from now, I'd forgive them. Maybe not. But either way, my story would no longer be written by their demands. I lifted my face to the pale winter sun and whispered to myself, as if sealing a vow, "For once I am living for me," and this time I believed it.